Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day, all Bills all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bovee, and boy, do we have a special treat for everyone on this podcast.
I am not used to sitting up at this table. That's where you're supposed to sit. We're supposed to be over there asking you the questions. This feels a little bit strange.
Yeah, we are in the Bills media room, by the way, and we welcome in Sean McDermott, head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
Yep,
Thanks a lot, Coach.
How's it going,
Sean? Thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I think we should start with the media since we're here. We're in the media room. This is where the press conferences happen, and people see you on TV answering the questions from us throughout the year and this time of year. I have to be honest with you. I wanted to get into a little bit of this because it's been such the topic lately, right? I mean, the dynamic between the Buffalo Bills and the media. We had an interview on WGR on Odyssey between Brandon Beane and Jeremy White recently. That kind of went viral, and people have been talking about it a lot lately. So without getting in the weeds of that, you're not Brandon. I want to talk for him, but for yourself, Sean, what is your relationship with the media? How do you see it? And actually, how does it evolve maybe over the years for you?
Yeah, valid question, I guess. Due to the time we're in here the last couple of weeks. I really see it, number one, as I see my relationship with our local media in a good light. I really do. Understanding, number one, that we both have jobs to do. I think there's a certain level of respect that comes with understanding that. And then two is, the media for me is a chance for us to connect as a team with our fan base. And so, messaging along those lines and everything like that. So that's kind of the two kind of cornerstones for me. And then, especially during the season now, like one of the biggest things for me is not to try and create extra distractions for our football team. You guys don't always like that because that means I don't always give you as much information maybe as you'd like. But that's where you go back to the respect level of, hey, I understand you have a job to do. I'm going to give you what I can give you. And then you guys have to understand that I have a job to do first and foremost for the team. So I think that for me is really where it begins. And again, my relationship with the media, I've really enjoyed building these relationships with you two and beyond. And I think, when we've had a chance to experience life and life through the Bills and the ups and downs of the journey, so to speak, I think, through that, we develop a more intimate relationship, if you will.
How has that evolved over time? You get your job 2017. It's your first year as a coach. I'm sure at that point, there's so many things that are getting thrown at you, right? You're trying to figure out how to be a head coach in the NFL. Fast forward to now, you guys have had a lot of success. It also feels like you've opened up over the years, right? Especially in these media settings. Do you feel like you've evolved in that sense?
I do. I think, I would hope that I'm always evolving, always growing, and this being one area. And over the course of time, trust builds, right? And so the more we're around each other, the more trust builds. And again, the more my understanding of what you guys, what works for you, right? And so at the end of the day, you guys have jobs to do and food to put on the table, and I respect that a great deal. So having said all that, there is an element of it goes both ways, right? And there's a lot of critics in this day and age, and a lot of people with a microphone in front of them, and it's easy to sit there and poke holes in what has been a tremendously successful 8, now going on 9 years. And every year is different. We don't take it for granted, our success, but the level of success that we've experienced and been able to sustain has been, I think, unique around the NFL. And I think maybe one other team, if we're not at the top, we're maybe second in terms of the number of wins, still searching for the title of best in the world. And when you wake up with that in mind, you're walking a very thin balance beam in what you're trying to accomplish every day. But that's what we set off every morning to do, is to create a product that our fan base can be proud of, and wake up every morning with the hope of, hey, my team's got a good chance to win every weekend, every Sunday. So we've got the best fan base in the NFL. I believe that. No one can tell me otherwise. And I love their passion. I love how important this game and the Bills are to our community. And we subscribe to that wholeheartedly, that connection of being a part of something bigger.
So a little peek behind the curtain here. I think Matt would agree. I know from my standpoint, people always ask and say, like, someone's telling us what questions to ask you from our own end, from our bosses, things like that. That's not the case. You might be surprised once in a while by questions that come your way, but generally, I don't think that's the case. Tell everybody how it works for you. So you go into a press conference, you have your great PR director, Derek Boyko, sitting here today, but you talk with him before you come out here. Does he keep you on top of and aware? Because sometimes you'll say, I know you guys say I don't play young players or something along those lines. How do you know that? Are you paying attention to what we're saying? Is someone telling you? How does all that work?
Right. Well, as it relates to the different, modes of communication, media, what have you, I really don't spend much of my time, no disrespect, listening to or reading things. And if I were to do that, it'd be taking time away from the team, or quite honestly, taking time away from my life outside of this building, which is not all that much other than my family, right? So I owe that to my family. I owe that to this team to, keep myself focused on the task at hand. And that's what why we employ people like Derek to, hey, before you go on, you need to know this or what have you. So what's trending, what's hot, the hot topics. So again, I come from a environment, we're all products of our environment. I come from an environment years ago where I cut my teeth with Andy, where it was very close to the vest. And so I came in with that type of approach because it's what I was a product of. But now I've also learned that there is a human element of all this. And there is an element of, hey, listen, just for myself, putting my own signature on it, right? Allowing you guys to see a little bit more of who Sean is, both on the job and off the job. And so, I enjoy that. Also understanding this is a hard thing to do is in terms of to lead a football team and to be successful every year like we've been. So I think you always have to go back and think about big picture perspective on where we were and where we are now, and yet where we're trying to get to from a goal standpoint.
So we're sitting here and it's May, right? I don't think we're doing this conversation if it's November, right? You've
No.
obviously got a lot of things that are going on. What is life like for Sean McDermott right now? You know what I mean? We're about to enter a sort of busy, I guess, period for you, but then it also might dip down. What are you working on right now?
Oh boy. I think every year, the more you're in this, that I'm in this job or we're in these jobs, the more you learn what is really required to do the job at the highest of the high levels, right? And for me, a big piece of that this past year in particular, it was always involved or integrated into what we've done last year, probably more so than anything. And now moving forward, Matt, with making sure that this team is in the right headspace now, but also in particular during the season. And I think you saw some of that last year. And with that, you're able to take a team. I think a lot of people maybe questioned how good we were going to be able to be and make it better. And I think mindset has a big piece of that.
Glad you said that, because it goes right into what we were talking about, wanting to get into about last year, which is this time of year, there were a lot of people saying, well, the Bills are going to take a step back. Look at all these guys they released. I know the way you think. I know the way Brandon thinks. You're always trying to win. There's no doubt about that. But did anything surprise you about last year, from a positive or a negative aspect, with your football team?
Not necessarily. I would say that I think it was a great reminder in terms of team building, in terms of when people can work together as a team and people can put their egos aside. This is just, whether you're 8 years old playing what we called was TYA baseball back in the day with youth community baseball. Here we call it house baseball, right? Or softball. No matter when you're on those teams or when you're in the NFL, that building a team, the threads that make that become that grow into great teams are all the same. They don't differ from when you're young to when you're old. It's, hey, who can you love each other? Can you commit to each other? Are you going to be selfless? Are you going to and not carry your ego and just be about the team and work hard? And so with that, and make sure you're covering all the details and all that type of stuff. But those threads to me are important, and it was just a great reminder because last year's team, I think, really embodied that. It really did.
Almost like a reinforcement, not a surprise,
Right.
to what your core beliefs are, I guess.
Yeah,
To know.
and usually, I mean, look, there's from time to time there's a team that wins the world championship who is once a flash in the pan.
Sure.
They do whatever they do, right, for whatever reason. But most of the time, that connection on a team, right, that connection has to be there in order to get the talent to trigger, right, to facilitate the talent to go into action, and then you'll see how far you go as a team.
So we are recording this in the beginning of May, and we're about a week away from the NFL schedule getting released. I know you guys get it a little bit ahead of time. It's not insane amount ahead of time that fans get it. When you get the schedule, what is the first thing you look for when you get your schedule for next season?
Oh boy, great question. I really try and look at the schedule in between games.
Oh, wow.
The time that is going to lapse in between games, and because we're a popular ticket,
Yeah.
right? A popular show on TV from time to time as well. We play at a lot of odd times, odd parts of the week, and you have to embrace it. That's what you got to do as a team, and it's great for our fans. It's hard on the players, right, and hard on their families, and it's hard on the coaches in particular because of the preparation that's put in. We all love routines, especially in the high performance world. People, routines are what sometimes lead to elite performances, and you have to be able to adjust your routine, but you'd rather not, to be quite honest. So I'm looking right away for how many days in between each game, where these short weeks are going to be, and then where the longer weeks are going to be as well, to maybe catch up on some rest, or we can, hey, during this week, we can actually work on one of our short week opponents a little bit, like one phase. We'll just look at third down perhaps. So just always trying to find a competitive advantage in everything we're doing.
All right. So when you get that, it's a great answer, because do you then start the big picture of going to your sports science department right away and saying, hey, in November, we have this? Or is it more as you get closer to that? Do you already have all that laid out?
We do, and they do a really good job. And over the years, that again, our familiarity with one another has grown. Okay, this is what Sean likes, and so last year, what they did was they basically filled out the outline of the season in terms of what each practice should, starting in August at least, or I take it back, starting in June or July. This is what we're pitching for the season to you, Sean. Now, I have final say because I think there is also a feel of, hey, this is what was pitched back in June or July, but this is where my gut tells me the team is,
Right.
and what they need. So I overrule that at times just because of, hey, no, we got to go harder today. Or you know what? I talked to a couple of the leaders on the leadership group, and they're feeling kind of tired. We need to back off a little bit here, even though the grid, I call it the grid, says this. So yes, I try and involve as many of the critical components to solve the problem, the equation as possible, and then ultimately use my field to get the final answer.
We're fortunate. We have a conversation every year with Mike North, who's the vice president of broadcast for the NFL, and he'll give us some nuggets about kind of how the schedule is made and what teams are looking for. And he specifically brought up a story this year that I thought was really interesting. He said Spags, when he was with the Rams, got the schedule, and it was really not favorable for the Rams. I think they didn't play a division game till week 7 or something. It was a really, really hard kind of beginning of the schedule.
I think they had all playoff teams until like the first half of the year.
That's
too.
what I mean. So it was a very front-loaded schedule. Do you look at how your opponents fall on the schedule, or do you just immediately go to the off time? Are you looking when the schedule comes out of, okay, hey, we've got this team in the beginning, maybe we're happy we get that team in the beginning or at the end, or does any of that play a factor?
To a small extent, and I can understand what Spags was alluding to. Yeah, listen, there's times when you're like, hey, they want us to go here, and then 4 days later, we got to go here, and you're like two big time, two typically perennial powers in our league, and but
you had that little run last year, the 3 games in a row on the road to start the season, bang, 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 all on the road. That was surprising when the schedule came out.
But and here's the thing: what I've learned over the years is you can't control it. So we need to embrace it and just take them one at a time. and we'll get to that part in the schedule. And yeah, it might be hard. The reality of our league is, I think every year there's like 4 to 6, maybe 7 new playoff teams. Maybe that's actually a little bit overboard, but I think 4 to 5 maybe. And so, who may have been good the year before may not be as good this year, or you may catch them at a certain time. So, it depends. I'll also look at how many new coaches we're going to face. And so the thing also too, let's not forget, is we know our opponents. It's just a matter
Sure.
of when
right.
we're going to play them. So that piece again is, maybe I'm just, laser focused on trying to do the best that I can with our team and just saying, hey, we know who we're playing already. So already we've begun some of that research through the film, of course, and trying to figure out who these new opponents are, or who a team that maybe we haven't played in a couple of years is now with even the same staff or a new staff. So it's just a matter of more planning and being intentional. Like we'll have a couple of years ago, and it happens every year. All right, we're going to play a new opponent on a short week that we haven't played in a couple of years. Well, we're going to do that, especially if it's in the first quarter or so of the season or first half of the season. We're going to do that now. We're going to at least do one part of the game plan for them so that you're not turning on the TV or the film on a Sunday night after a game that you just played, trying to familiarize yourself with the new opponent who you have no idea who they are or what they're about. So, again, it's all this, how quick can you get to the answer of who they are and what they're about.
Sean McDermott with us here, and it's always game day in Buffalo. The schedule gets released on Wednesday night, May 14th. Before that, rookie minicamp. We're here on Thursday. Rookie minicamp's on Friday. We're going to meet some of the rookies. Give a good story about a rookie, whether back to Carolina or Philadelphia, where you go out there and you're like, this guy's a little different. He's a little special. Can you remember anybody like that in your time?
I can remember Luke Kuechly.
He predicted you would say that.
You did?
He predicted you would say that.
Luke Kuechly.
Yes.
He's a freak, yeah.
Well, but hang on, and
okay,
Luke will probably kill me for saying this. But as humble as humble of a young man as he is, he may agree with me a little bit, I guess. One of the best players I've ever coached. Special person. First rookie minicamp, first day, I remember watching special teams is over on the side, getting practice started, and you don't have full numbers, right? So you're certainly cut down. Luke is over starting to do some just light drill work, and then getting into individual period, which is more drills with the other linebackers. And I was looking out of the corner of my eye, just trying to follow, hey, this is our number 1 pick. And I'm like, is that really, I kind of expected maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to tell you what, in about an hour later, when the team period started and that ball got turned over and he basically met the ball where it was going before anybody else, I'm like, yeah, that's the guy we wanted.
That was the first round pick we always wanted.
I love that.
I mean, just an unbelievable quick processor, and highly intelligent player, certainly gifted physically. And I really think his physical gifts continued to grow even as a young pro and into the time when he became a veteran. So, just a special player, special person. And but I can vividly remember those first couple of drills going in and out of the bags or whatever he was doing. I'm like, and then I'm starting to worry a little bit, right? I'm like, is this, and how's our defense going to look with this? And about an hour and a half later, I'm like,
we'll be okay.
We'll be all right. Yeah.
What do you look for these next couple of days? Are you looking for effort? Are you looking for how they're relating with their other teammates, kind of what the vibe is like on the field? Are you looking for how well they know or retain information? It's such a small period of time, right? How much do you take away, and what are you looking for?
Well, probably the biggest thing on the field that I'll be looking for is how they move. Mm-hmm. Doing a little bit more, detail on the body in terms of how long they are, how they move, how fast they really are in person, how quick they are in person, how instinctive they are, in different ways. So just really trying to evaluate the overall football player. The other piece I kind of press pause on just a little bit in terms of how well they connect with their teammates, this and that. Sometimes you see some things jump off the page. Max's situation's already been pretty documented, and what a kind of vibrant personality he is. But there's a number of guys come here and it's new to them. And this is now they're small fish in a big pond as opposed to the other way around. So they don't always show us maybe who they exactly are until they get more comfortable and the trust builds a little bit more and they can feel free to open up. So that piece varies a little bit person to person.
I remember I read a book, Bobby Knight, one time, and he said, "I'm going to treat everybody fairly, but not equally." Was the quote, because he said, "Hey, yeah, but what's good for you is not necessarily good for someone else, depending on who you are and the personality. You have a kid here, Landon Jackson. He's married. He's 22 years old. He's coming up here. He's already married. You have other kids coming in. Last year, Keon at 20 years old. Tremaine comes in at 20 years old. Are you cognizant of that when they come up here, or do you kind of just lay it out where this is the Buffalo Bills, this is our expectations, let's go, and then you figure it out along the way with the guys?"
A little bit of both. What we try and do after the draft is get together coaches and scout some of our scouting department, Brandon included, and then our development staff, all the directors of the training room, the weight room, that are going to have their hands on these players early and try and connect so that we're all on the same page of who these players are as football players and what in terms of what we think they are, at least, and then who they are as people and what type of care are they going to need off the field, on the field, what type of teaching technique has worked best for them in the past. A lot of this our area scouts gather, especially the background information, what happens off the field. And so we use that. I'll go through my scouting report in terms of what I get, the background piece, and I'll highlight just parts of personality, and so that we know what we're dealing with and how we can, as quickly as possible, not only get them onboarded, but also get them playing at the highest level.
We're talking about new guys now, but one of the conversations Sal and I were having earlier was, you guys have had a track record of bringing back players who you have familiarity, right? You could bring back Trey White this year. You bring back Dane Jackson this year. Yesterday it's topical because Gabe gets let go from the Jags, and people immediately go, "Oh, Gabe Davis probably going back to Buffalo." Why is it so important to you, or why is it so valuable if a player leaves that maybe they are more attractive to ultimately come back to Buffalo?
Well, it's got to take both sides, obviously, for those things to come together. Number one, I think it says a lot about our organization and how people view our organization, those that have played here for sure, in particular in this case, and they get a chance to go somewhere else and see, hey, how does that compare to Buffalo? How does that compare to Buffalo for me as a player, for me as a person, for me and my family? And you guys know this place is a hidden secret, right? Someone told me that when I first arrived here. It's like people don't understand the perception of Buffalo a little bit versus the reality of Buffalo. And I have found that to be the case. Like, where else in the NFL can you raise a family 10 minutes from the stadium, right?
Right.
Maybe Green Bay. I haven't been to all of it,
Right.
in all fairness, but I'm going, hey, what works for Buffalo, that works, right? For me and my family and a lot of NFL families. And
You ever hear Jerry Glanville? I don't know if you ever read this. I always share this. Jerry Glanville said, he coached here in the 80s. He said, "Buffalo made my wife cry twice. Once when I told her we had to move there because I was coaching there, and once when I told her we had to leave."
Yeah,
and it's true, right?
Yep.
You get here and it becomes a part of your fabric, really.
It does. And that's the unique connection and fit.
Yeah.
I mentioned that before. When you're an assistant and you're trying to become a head coach, that's a journey in and of itself. And then you get an offer to become a head coach, and it's like you're not even, sometimes, like, most of us aren't thinking fit, right? Oh, and most don't have more than one offer on the table.
Sure.
Some do, but at the end of the day, what a blessing it's been for me and my family because of how I was raised and the community and the culture here in Western New York and what this place is all about. And I've mentioned that multiple times, but what stands out to me is the ability to go get gas at the gas station in the village of Orchard Park. You're pumping gas and somebody just says hi, and they leave it at that because they don't want to, okay, it's coach's time, he's just being a real person, whatever, right? Or they'll ask you, hey, coach, how's the team doing? Or they'll say, hey, good luck this week, whatever. I love that, right? I love the fact that you can go and play I'll reference baseball and softball, like baseball 5 minutes from here. I can go and sometimes have my dinner at the Orchard Park Little League concession
Right.
stand.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the best hot dogs and burgers around.
Right.
Right. Um, I just love that. I think it's a slice of heaven in that regard. Right. It's like someone once told me that Pittsford, where we go to training camp, is like a Norman Rockwell painting, and I would agree. And I would agree Buffalo has just this unique warmth feel, but also like it knows what it stands for, and it stands for toughness and work ethic and um, this unique bond between the teams in Buffalo, all the professional sports teams, and their fan bases.
We have a few fun questions I want to get to, but I always joke, no one's timing me in the 40. As long as I can talk, I can do this for a living. But there comes a time in everybody's life where you evaluate where you want to be in life. You've been a coach a long time. The coach's shelf life, as you know, is not very long in the NFL. You've done this job for a while. Do you ever think about the end, if you want to be doing this 20 years from now, into your 70s, like Pete Carroll, like Bill Belichick? Do you think, you know what, at some point, my kids are going to be in college, I'm going to step away, like, not trying to rush you out of Buffalo, but I just wonder what your mindset is in your overall picture of life.
Yeah, never thought that I'd get that question, and because you're like, hey, but yeah, God, I believe, brought us here for a reason. I believe that reason is to, inspire others to do things for Him and for His kingdom, and hopefully, listen, wins and losses are important to me, right? The wins in particular, and you work hard for it. I believe in my heart of hearts, and I've shared this, I think, last year with everyone at the end of the season or close to the end, of like, when a head coach goes to a place, your job, your responsibility is not only to win games, but it is to do much, much more than that in the community and create, hopefully, hope and inspire others in some way by the way you do your job, right? I believe that that's part of the job of a head coach. And so it's not transactional. People ask, hey, where do you live in the off season? We live here. We live here for a reason, right? I want to win a world championship. And, if and when that day comes, if that's God's plan, then we'll see. Right. So that's really where I'm at. But this job has my total and full dedication and commitment, and my family does too. So
your dad was a coach. It's in your blood. I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah. And from the time I was this old, as a young wrestler at 4.5 years old, like 38 pounds, I've always wanted to be the best. The first year wrestling, I watched my brother, he goes to state tournament just as we were both first year wrestlers, and I didn't. And I remember literally on how we hold our children. Yeah. I was on the assistant coach. We're at the state tournament. I'm watching my brother wrestle. I'm on the shoulders of the assistant coach up against the wall, watching my brother wrestle. And I'm going, I want that right there. And from that moment on, that feeling has not changed. And I want our community. I want the Buffalo Bills, for all who have worked here over the years, for all who have been fans of this football team, and then Terry and his family. I want them to be able to say, hey, world champions, right? And I think about those moments sometimes and saying, you know what? I don't even know if I would go to the podium, because it's not really, for me, yes, I want that, right? But it's not who I am.
Right.
Sometimes I think about, like, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to exit stage right? Go in the locker room. That to me is what I want for this town, for Terry, for the fans, for the people who have worked here as well, for so long. So that's really my heart and my heart's desire.
What is the thing about Buffalo that has surprised you most? You didn't know before you moved here? I know you talked about it a little bit, about some of the things that you liked. I probably didn't know about how good the hot dogs and hamburgers were over at Orchard Park. But what's the thing that has surprised you the most in your time living here?
There's so many things. I'm trying to decide on which one. It's probably that this place is you can, like I said earlier, you can raise a family. You can, in a good way, you can go to watch a professional sports team play all within 20 minutes of each other. Listen, I've only worked at 3 other NFL teams, but I don't know where you can do that, right? As well as you can do it here. And it's probably biased, I guess, a little bit. And I'm living here for now going on 9 years. I'm probably biased. I'm fully aware of that, but I don't think you can do that in a lot of NFL cities. The people here are as genuine as I've ever seen. And that to me, like, is a big thing for me. I don't spend a lot of time talking to people who aren't genuine. And I don't really, it's not what I believe in. So, I mean, I do it, right? But
yeah.
But I just appreciate genuine people and authenticness and authenticity. And I think you get that here. And what I love, I remember our first year walking through the tailgates before games and just getting a feel for the crowd, getting a feel for the vibe. And I just think that those people are real out there, right? They're real and their passion is real. I was at a ball field yesterday, in fact, and leaving the game, and I usually sit in the outfield, and a gentleman came up to me, and he was sitting in the outfield about 30 yards away, and he came over before about last couple outs of the game, and he said, "Hey," he introduced himself, and we're walking away, and he says, "Hey, I appreciate what you've done, what you guys have done with the team," and he said, "I got to tell you, I was losing hope. I was kind of losing my flavor for the Bills, this and that, before you guys got there, and I certainly thanked him for that, showed my appreciation." And he said, "Hey," he said, "I just get this feeling that that over the years the Bills have been okay being number 2." And I was like, you don't know me, and you don't know this
Someone
team."
said that to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is the furthest thing from who we are. The furthest thing from who we are.
Thanks for sharing that story. That's
it didn't end up the way you expected it to.
No, it did not.
I was like, wow.
But from time to time, that's you know, and so, but you go back to the night of the Super Bowl in my mind, that I can see it, right, and what that's going to look like, and like I want to be able to give that to that person that came in and said, "Hey, here you go."
Yeah.
You're no longer number 2. You're number 1.
I love that. There should be a sign when you enter Buffalo. "Welcome to Buffalo. If you've driven 20 minutes, you've gone too far." Because everything is 20 minutes. We always joke about that. All right. When you're driving in Buffalo, let's have some fun here.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott, he listens to some music. He puts on his iPod, whatever. You put on your iPhone, your music. You hit shuffle. What's the most likely artist to come up in your playlist that you have the most of, that you listen to the most of?
Ooh, that's a tough one because it's changed over the years.
Okay.
If I go back to an oldie but goodie, I would say Michael Jackson. I was raised in the era of Michael Jackson, when the Jacksons were, especially Michael, when he kind of took the lead reins there. Man, you're asking me about music. Zach Brown Band. I like country. I like about every form of music: house music, dance music. Some R&B. Growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So sometimes I put that on in the weight room.
Philly, Boys to Men.
Boys to Men.
From Philly, right?
Yeah. A little bit of Motown from time to time, just being, Cool in the Gang and some of those. Just, we're, as a family, people probably don't know this. I share this with the players and they're like, no way. We're a family that dances. We love to dance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
So don't ever invite me to a wedding. I learned from one of my buddies, you always take 2 shirts to a wedding, right? For the dance floor, not for any other reason, but for the dance floor.
Yeah.
Because you sweat it up, right? And you can't be, spraying sweat all over the place.
Jamie, a dancer? Your wife?
Yeah. Our kids, I grew up back in the day, and my aunt would always make my brother and I play the gong show. If you remember the gong show years ago. And she'd gong us before we ever had our performance fully out there. But so that's, just, I am into music, but I don't always remember like who sings it or the words. I just like the beat, and everything. So maybe a little bit different than the players' music that they listen to from time to time, but sometimes the same.
All right.
Last one for me. Favorite television show? of all time and favorite movie of all time.
Favorite movie of all time. I'll just give you a couple because they kind of probably go back and forth.
Sure.
I would say I like the original Top Gun. I like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I like Vision Quest, which is a wrestling movie of all, back in the day. I think those are 3 pretty good ones. And then what was the other one? Favorite what?
TV show.
TV show. I love the Cosby Show growing up. Thought that was a good one. So many old sitcoms.
Yeah.
I use the word old. I guess not old, but so many sitcoms that used to get home. They're on at 8:00 Thursday night. They're on at whatever time, and you could just the old TV guide, and there it is. It's every week, right? And I wish TV was still the same, but it certainly hasn't. It's certainly changed over the years.
Do you think he's actually watched Vision Quest?
No.
He is.
I don't know. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
will. Hey, you may cry.
Oh my God.
You might cry.
Really?
And I'll tell you what happens. Hal Luther, one of our assistant strength coaches, he will text me because Rocky's also a big part of me.
Sure.
Especially Rocky 4.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested in which one, right? Which Rocky?
Yeah.
He will. It'll be inevitably Rocky's. It's a Friday night or a Saturday night, and Rocky's on at 1 in the morning, 11:30, whatever, and I'll wake up to a text from Hal, and it's, hey, sitting here watching Rocky 4 and or Rocky 2, whatever it is, and he's texting me like, what a night, what a
oh my gosh,
that to me is Miracle. The movie
Miracle, yeah.
That to me, that movie to me,
that's your miracle.
That is my miracle. That the speech in Miracle would get me to go run through a wall for somebody. That's like my favorite.
I was never a wrestler.
How about when he closes the
Notebook?
Coach Brooks, right? He's looking at his last kind of, and I think about this before our game sometimes. I'm like, okay, last kind of review, bang, close it. Let's go to work.
Yeah.
What a moment.
Oh, it's the best.
What a moment.
It's
I mean, listen, I was never a wrestler, but yeah. Loudon against Shoot, right? Loudon, is that his name, right? Against Shoot in Vision Quest. Madonna, she's got the title track. Anyway, we can get all into that. I love it. All right, crazy for you, Madonna. I love it. You go out and watch the YouTube videos. You ever take an interest in an instrument? You were just talking about music. I'm driving here and I learned today's Alex Van Halen's birthday. I'm a drummer. Eddie and Alex, right? You know it, and I loved it. I'm like, this is great. Panama was playing because of it. I'm getting into it, and I thought about it. I wonder if Sean McDermott played any instruments.
Were you drumming on the dashboard?
I am air drumming all the time.
Really?
All the time, for sure.
I played it during your press conference.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm just kidding. Sitting there in the back.
You ever play an instrument?
I did.
What'd you play?
Started with the drums.
Ooh.
Did that whole deal. And then actually, I think before that was like this big horn thing. And, in elementary school, they used to go to each class. Like, hey, kids, today, you can play the flute, you can play the recorder, you can play. Well, this thing for me with this big horn, so you had to put it into my grandfather's trunk in order to get it to school for lesson for 1 day a week. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Like using the cables to strap the trunk down. And I mean, it took everything I had to get it to make the noise, right? So that didn't last long.
No.
Then we did the drums, and I'm like, me and my parents, I was doing it, but it ended. My career was still short, and we had the Christmas play that elementary schools have, and my role. So it was the snare drum, right? One drum, and there's 3 of us that signed up for it. So we're in there getting the lessons, bang, 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 and then we end with the Christmas play.
Yeah.
And the chorus is singing. There's the actors on the stage, and I got the bass drum part, right? Never played the bass drum. And that's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, to keep the rhythm of the moment, right? Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, that's right.
Boom.
Well,
boom.
I could have used you back. So the musical teacher and the music teacher, he was going, and now
telling you when
on 4 count, and now, and I'm like, right, because apparently I wasn't doing it so well, right? So all that's been short lived. But what I'm working on now, and my kids will laugh at this, is the acoustic guitar. Every year I usually get into about lesson 1 or 2 on the YouTube, right? YouTube channel. Hey, how do you play acoustic guitar? Working on getting my hand just right. So I have one at home. You see how I was.
Yeah, I love that.
Hand on. I have it at home, it's just one of those things like a bucket list. I'm like, I want to be able to sit around one day and just like, you hear these great, I know how to, they just, like I was just with a bunch of my buddies from college one weekend, and a guy pulls out his acoustic guitar, starts singing. I'm like,
sick. Sitting at like a fire, just like with your buddies.
Oh, man.
Hoodie and shorts. And
or
somebody just
he'll
brings out
play
a
and
good-
somebody starts singing, and it's just like, man, I love to do that.
That's Sean McDermott's next thing.
So, okay. I know we've kept you long. I appreciate it, man. This has been great.
Yeah.
I know Derek's over there. He's Philly guy. You're Philly guy. I got a hot take, sports take for you.
Oh
Okay.
no.
I think you'll like it, but you tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
Ricky Waters should be in the Hall of Fame,
Agree.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he's the biggest snub I can think of. Ricky Waters, by the way, Bishop McDevitt, same as LaShawn, right?
Yep.
Same high school as LaShawn.
Yep.
Ricky Waters, Hall of Fame. That's my hot sports take. That's what you agree with that?
Ricky
That's
Waters grew up watching him, and then obviously was around LaShawn.
Yeah.
At two spots, Philly and here. So a lot of talent came out of there.
No doubt about it. You got a hot sports take you want to share with Sean McDermott? You got one?
This is embarrassing. I don't know who Ricky Waters is.
Oh my God. See?
I told you we
We'll
were
work
talking.
with you,
We
yeah.
were talking a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
we'll work with you.
I was born a little bit.
What about the NBA playoffs that are going on, or the NHL playoffs?
Oh,
right
I
now,
was
huh?
locked in on that game last night, the Celtics and Knicks game. Some
Yeah.
good defense. He's a defensive coordinator guy. Like they say, defense wins championships. I was locked in on that. I feel like I've turned a league because now when I get home, I turn on basketball before I turn on hockey. That would have never in my life happened, but that's now how it is for me. So I flip back and forth. I want to see that game, and then I was able to watch the rest of the Leafs game. So you're going back and forth. But yeah, I've just become, that has been my kind of my casual thing of just watching the NBA.
I love the playoffs. I'm not. I love. It's hard during the season to watch the NBA and the NHL regular season. Obviously, I'm a Sabres fan through and through. The playoffs, man, just like anything, they go to another level, right? The intensity. I'm sitting at home watching with my son. There was a hockey game on. I can't remember who was playing, but the guy gets drilled right into the bench, right, and basically goes into the bench there, and it's just like he's like, "Whoa, did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah."
It is a different.
I love it.
On ice, those guys doing what they can do when you're down that close. You've seen it.
Oh my goodness!
How big they are, how fast they are, how strong they are.
Fast, yeah, it's incredible, and I have a newfound respect. Not that I didn't respect them before, but the level of athletes, the intensity, the speed, and then just what I love about the playoffs is the physicality.
Yep.
Yeah.
It used to be, I feel like, and again, I'm not as in depth in the hockey knowledge as some, but it used to be that physicality was all season long. And now I think it's just more, either it just ratchets up in the playoffs or there's just more of it. But I love that. I love that part of the game.
It's the best.
You're
Playoff
good?
hockey, playoff basketball. I'm great. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting down with us. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, I mean,
good to be with
we
you
went a
guys.
little longer, but it was all great. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure
Thank you so
thing.
much for
Thank
doing
you
that.
so much, Sean. Appreciate
We're
you.
going to say thank you to everybody out there watching as we have Sean McDermott here today, and it's always Game Day in Buffalo. Make sure you're downloading, subscribing at Sal Sports on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you do it. Thanks a lot to Mike Robbie, our producer, and of course, thanks a lot to Derek Boyko, Bills PR director, for helping us
you're getting a lot of
organize
shout-outs
all
lately.
this today, for sure. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again next time here on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo.